Hello, guys. This is Jeff. I want to respond to your recent video here concerning how you feel about Star Trek Picard Season 2. Uh, I have to agree with a lot of the points you made. Okay, I too feel like there's a lot of B stories being pushed and shoved into this season that are confusing the A story a lot. Now the focus is more about the Queen, the Borg Queen. How is she going to wreck the past? Well, we've kind of forgotten that Q was the one that supposedly created this alternate future, but now we're all worried about what the Queen's going to do. Okay, so it's like, well, you see what I'm saying? How the A plot has gotten morphed into something different as a result of how these B stories were shaping up. Now, here's the thing. Like you said, there's a lot of things that made you think that, oh, this is where this is going to go, and it didn't. Okay, it's like all the what I call dead end stories. Okay, they just didn't go anywhere, and they did that in season one. They've been doing that with Discovery, off in these different seasons, uh, and I think the reason why those things happen is because you got more than one writer on the show, and each writer has an idea they want to inject into the story. Not that they even have a proper conclusion to their B story, they want to put it in there. One of these things I think they stuck in there, which was meant for season one, but for some reason didn't get added into there, was the backstory about where uh, this girl in Data's painting ever came from. Okay, that he called daughter. Well, that they never answered that in season one Picard. Okay, that was something that didn't really get a very complete answer with. Okay, it gave you some kind of an answer to explain the reason they created robots of that girl or androids, but they didn't really explain where this idea came from, and who the daughter to whom was what. Okay, so they didn't really answer that. So I think they had the story already intended to go in there, but for some reason they said no, no, we can't add that in there. It's just going to be too much. But they felt like it needed to be told, so they jammed it into season two. Okay, which is why they brought Adam Sung into this thing to explain this away. And somehow they felt they needed to connect Adam Sung here with Q, which to me didn't seem to make much sense at all. Okay, Q was doing his own thing. Why would he need Adam Sung's help for a fucking thing? You know what I'm saying? I don't get it. I just don't get it. I think that there's a lot there that they added into this story during this season that doesn't lift the A story up into more clarity. Okay, uh, the Queen issue is sort of muddled itself into an A story, where all of our attention's kind of focused on that as the problem that needs to be solved, and we still don't really understand why Q is really dying because, from what I always understood, Q's live for a very long time and they don't die unless they want to die. Okay, because the Q we saw in Voyager committed suicide by eating that plant there that the John Delancey Q had given him, and he didn't want to save himself, so he just allowed this thing to kill him. Okay, so we know that Qs can kill themselves, but we didn't have any idea that a Q could actually just die from something other than themselves. So they never really explained that yet either in this season. Uh, and we still don't know why or what he's up to, what he's trying to do to Picard, or what he's trying to teach Picard, or what is going on. Why did Q even do this? Why is he doing this shit? Okay, and the answer we got in this recent episode doesn't really answer anything. Okay, you know, they kind of muddled a reason together that Q is trying to teach Picard something, or him and Guinan, young Guinan, kind of trying to put an answer to what Q is doing, but it doesn't answer the question. It's just a lot of talk, but it's not an answer, okay? And so we're still trying to figure out what Q is doing. And like you said, there's only 2 more episodes to go, and they don't seem to be wrapping up any threads. They're just creating more threads as they go, which means it's more likely than not that this is going to end in a cliffhanger. And if it doesn't, it's going to be a very botched ending to a season that started with a lot of promise, as you said, but ended in a quagmire that became a rapid end. Okay, so it's really not going to be a very good season. I don't think it's going to be marginally better than the first season, but I don't think it's going to be that great. I think most people are going to walk away from season 2 Picard remembering bits and pieces of it, but they're not really going to remember the entire series episode storyline, because the storyline is very confusing. It's not clear cut. I mean, we can name off episodes of TOS, TNG, DS9, Voyager, and we know what those stories were about just by giving us the name of the episode, right? I know you guys can do that. Okay, but when we talk about season 1 Picard, what was the story? You know, I can't see a Star Trek fan actually coming up with a quick answer. You know what I'm saying? They're going to sit back and kind of think it out first, and then try to muddle their way through the plot by explaining it to somebody what's going on. But then they're going to say, oh, and this part here, so it's going to sound very convoluted and very, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? You understand what I'm getting at, okay? There's nobody, no Trek fan that's worth his medal is going to be able to actually nail down a season of Picard or any of the other shows like Discovery, for that matter, in a simple explanation as to what that plot was for that episode, okay? They're not going to be able to do it. And that's the sad part, is because it's actually going to shame a lot of Star Trek fans who prided themselves for so long on knowing exactly not only what the story was about, but what the underlying story was about and what it was supposed to say to the people watching it. Nobody's going to be able to do that with any of these shows that they're writing now. And that's what's missing in Star Trek these days, is because they bogged it down with story and story B, and what got lost in there was the underlining theme to it all, and what are we supposed to take away from it when we watch it, which was what Star Trek was all about. And we're not getting that. That's what's so hollow now about Star Trek these days, is they're trying to fill it with all this fake stuffing. But at the end of the day, the story's as thin as a sheet of paper, and there's no meat to it, okay? There's just nothing there. And it's sad that we're going to close out the TNG era with this shitty, revisit of some favorite characters. And for people who did not like the way Star Trek Nemesis ended as the final hurrah for the TNG, they're going to like this even less, okay? I don't see how they're really going to make this a memorable thing that Paramount has done. Unfortunately, I think the priorities these days of shows like what we're watching here for Star Trek, it's all based in money, okay? What they can sell, how much money they can get for it. And, the fact that, Patrick Stewart himself had, pined so much about coming back to do Picard, unless it was something like this, it just tells me that, maybe he wasn't even aware of where this was going to go. And I can't see how he's still staying with this project, okay? Because I'm sure the actors themselves, some of them have got to be like, huh? What are we doing in this scene? They've got to be. If they got any brains at all in their head, they all must be wondering, where are we going with the story? What's happening? Because, a lot of these, for the most part, the characters in Star Trek Picard Season 2 have not been together. They've all been following their own stories. Okay, so how can anybody in these separate stories that are being, these actors understand what's going on overall in the story? Okay, I mean, are they reading ahead? Are they, skipping to the end? I mean, how can they know? And how is it, that they can be interviewed by Will Wheaton in the ready room and know something about what's going to happen with this person and that person? Okay, it's like, They must be pulling one of the greatest acts of bullshitting that I've ever seen on television, next to Donald Trump. But the fact is that I don't think these actors really know what's going to happen, because they can't really understand the plot of the story themselves, aside from the fact that they have to fix the past to save the future, which is a conundrum that keeps coming up all the time in Star Trek. From TOS up to today. Okay, there's nothing new about that kind of a story, but all these other B stories that are going on don't seem to make much sense in the overall story. They're all just dead end stories, except for maybe the Queen, which they're trying to build up as a big thing that's going to happen here, which might be the reason the show ends in a cliffhanger. But I don't see how there's any logic to all this debacle going on with all these different characters. It's just more of the same that we saw in season 1 Picard, where they're trying to jam a ton of stuff into a show. Okay, and by the time the show was over, we remember about an eighth of it, because the rest of it didn't pan out to be worth remembering because it went nowhere. All right, that's the part I hate about it, is that you want them to have some reason for being there. Okay, not just to show up and say, "Oh, hey, remember me from this episode?" No, we got to do more than that. If you're going to bring a character from TNG on the show for a reason, there's got to be a reason they're there. Otherwise, do not bring them on there. And that was something Robert Beltran had said when he was interviewed, and they asked him, "Would you come back to do a Voyager reunion kind of thing on the show?" And he said, "No, not unless my character is needed there," because he's been watching this stuff too, and he knows that they've been bringing back a lot of characters from these different Star Treks, and a lot of them are just not given the reason they should be there. And he doesn't want to be like that. He says, I just don't want to show up just to show up. And unfortunately, I think that's kind of what they're doing here. And that's and another thing is this story arc between Raffi and 7 of 9 doesn't seem to be going anywhere. Okay, if there's a relationship there, I'm not getting it. I'm not feeling it. I could certainly feel a relationship between Captain Rios and the girl, in the clinic. Okay, that's pretty present. I can sense that. In fact, that's pretty good storytelling there. But Raffi and 7 are supposed to be a couple, and we're not getting that couple feeling. Instead, we're getting the odd couple. Okay, they're sniping each other, and and they're goofing around and criticizing each other, and it's like, well, where's the romance? Where's the friggin' romance in this? I mean, where is it? There isn't any, and the season's almost done. Okay, but yet Rios has already created, a strong romantic kind of story going on with them. It's probably the best romance in the season here, but with 7 and Raffi, it feels like it's a doomed thing, that it's not going anywhere. And I'm sure that's going to be a letdown to a lot of the, LGBTQ community Star Trek fans out there that are watching this. They're probably hoping to, see something blossom from these two actresses who everybody says are so great together, but they're not really doing what they're supposed to be doing to build up on this relationship that they've alluded to since the beginning of the season. Okay, and this was supposed to be an idea that the two of them kind of agreed to do together in this season. So there was supposed to be a real push here to create this relationship. So I don't know. I really don't know. There's a lot, like I said, a lot of dead ends in this season. I feel like maybe we should have waited till the season was over, and to be able before watching it, or maybe we should have waited till season 2 and season 3 were all filmed and wrapped up, and then watch that whole thing. Because, like I said, I feel like this is what's going to happen. It's going to end in a cliffhanger. There's no way in hell they're going to be able to wrap up all these loose ends in just 2 episodes and make it plausible. Okay, it's too much, too fast. It's because it's been dragging, like you said, for episode after episode, and the pacing has been that way. Okay, it's going to look very odd when they try to pick it up to wrap up these things, and the stories are not going to be ended well enough to be believable in a way, or understandable for many. So Really, their best shot is to only end this on a cliffhanger. But this is the fault of the writers, because they put so many B stories in this season that they didn't have enough episodes to be able to wrap all the stuff up. Okay, and I don't know how any of these stories really going to have much relevance to do with season 3, Picard, which is the last season. So whatever loose ends there are at this point, if you're going to be bringing in all the cast of TNG, that you're going to have all those backstories there to cover, what they've been doing, where they are, where they've been. Okay, how is all of those stories going to mingle in with all the unfinished B stories that they opened up in season 2? You see what I'm saying? So this is not going to be what you would call a very organized ending to a franchise that people have loved since 1987. Okay, this is not the way that this should end. Okay, they've taken these characters way out off the deep end, outside the box, if you will, and they've come right back around, and they are in worse shape than they were when they left. Okay, and I feel like a lot of us at my age, I'm 50 years old, who grew up watching TNG, we're really being given a disservice here by people who don't even know what Star Trek: The Next Generation was or is or was supposed. It's like a soap opera on TV, and then halfway through the series you change writers, and they try to go in there and take characters that we know and write stories for them, and it doesn't match what we already know and where the story was going. Okay, that's how I feel about what's going on with Star Trek, because we've got these outside writers coming in, putting their fingerprints into what Star Trek has been, where it's been going, and now we've been totally derailed into a whole other direction here. It's kind of like what Trump did to the United States when he was president. Totally pulled us right off the tracks onto another set of tracks. That's where we are, okay, with Star Trek. And unfortunately, that seems to be the trend these days with a lot of TV shows out there. They don't want to continue what's been going on, what made it great. They want to create something new. They wanted to put their stamp on it. They want to make their bones in the TV world and make these shows their way. Okay, that's what they want to do. But they picked the wrong places to do that, because they don't realize that there's so much history with Star Trek. You can't just go in there and do something like that with a 50-year franchise. Jesus, I mean, you're asking for trouble. You're asking for trouble. Okay? I hope they learn from that. I really do, because someday people are going to want to revisit Star Trek again. And if they haven't learned anything from this era here, after Nemesis, if they haven't learned anything about this, then they're really going to fail and stumble at this again. And that, I don't see how it could recover from that. I have my doubts about how this is really going to recover now with Star Trek Picard. So anyway, that's my 2 cents worth into what you said. But yes, I am on board with where you guys are feeling about this series. I'm not really that happy with it. I thought it was going to start off good. It did seem to start off good, but now it's started off kind of disappointing, like I've been wasting my time watching this episode after episode, and I feel like we're not getting anywhere anytime soon, and this season is going to end as a season, not as an ending to a story, but as a well, come back next week, same time, same bat channel, you know what I'm saying? And we'll finish the story. But who's going to want to wait 8 months, for the, or whenever they plan? They better have season 3 right up against season 2 in that one. Okay, so take care, you guys, and keep doing what you're doing. It's great. Take care.